This is magic. This is magic.
Your lid.
Magical.
Alrighty, so today we are going through some culture shocks that we've picked up along the way. Some are big, some are small, some might be something that we experience that doesn't happen a whole lot. So take it with a grain of salt, and yeah, we just thought we'd kind of share the experience and see how, I guess, our lives here differ from our lives in Australia. Now, I will preface this by saying you will see a lot of paint on our hands because today was window painting day, and that video will come out soon. We'll keep you as updated as possible with that. But without further ado, I'll pass it on to you.
Yeah, so I think for me, one of the biggest shocks was actually in Grenada compared to Australia is women being able to walk at night and kids being able to, like, where we live, there's kids playing in the street till like 10 o'clock at night. Now, I haven't experienced that since I was a kid. I don't see that anymore. I definitely don't see that in Australia. And where we lived, we were around in a pretty metropolitan sort of area where there is a lot of families, there is a lot of kids.
You just don't see it. It's
you don't.
Just such a,
you don't. And that's
like,
where I say...
I wouldn't feel safe in the middle of the night walking outside our
definitely.
apartment building back in Australia alone. You know?
You're just going even to the milk bar, which is literally maybe a 25 meter
to
walk.
Literally look over the balcony to watch me like walk down and make sure I come back safe. So
because there's always people like around.
Probably making Australia sound horrible.
Well,
but you know, that's just the reality of, like, you know, that is a culture shock. It's just, it feels like it hasn't changed here since like the 80s.
Yeah, and at the moment in Australia, there is a lot of knife crime, just like in the UK. So the fact that we're able to just see women walk around is a big thing for me. So another thing that has been a culture shock definitely to me, and I believe Jasmine also, is people in Spain, or the Spanish culture is so relaxed on time. We experienced it with the garage guy. Depending on what time they will arrive, they'll say they'll arrive at a certain time, and they run off the ethnic timetable of if they say 9 o'clock, it means probably 1 o'clock. You know, or the next day. It could be the next day. It could be the day after.
Come up
However, of course, for people in Australia, that's a big no-no. That's a problem. That causes logistic nightmares. However, it's not just that part of relax on time. They're also a bit more chilled when it comes to their work-life balance. And I feel there is a more work-life balance here. I feel like that culture is still ingrained wherever we go with people. It's not that rushed. Even when we went to Granada, Alhambra, even this was a culture shock when we were in line at Zara. Yes. And there was something going on at the front, but no one complained in the line. Literally. No one complained. No one spoke up. If this was Australia and someone was at the front of the line taking their time,
someone would have said something.
I'm telling you now, security would have been called, something would have happened, the drama would have escalated, it would have been its own telenovela.
And especially it's like,
it was not
pre-Christmas time.
Well, it's
so
Christmas shopping.
Is like, oh, I want to get
I need to get
done,
this,
blah, blah,
I need
blah.
it.
But everyone's just so chill.
So when we say relax on time, I feel like people are also courteous of others. Time isn't a construct here. I think that's more of a Western thing. 100%. Yeah.
So the next thing is acronyms are said like words. So for example, we've got the NIE number, which I've explained in a different video, but we would say NIE, like if it's all capitals, it's NIE number because it stands for something, right? So over here, they pronounce it NIE. And I thought maybe it's just for something like that, but it applies to everything. Like anything that is an acronym, you will hear it being said like NIE or, you know, all the rest of it. So that's something that might be confusing at the start for you, but yeah, you'll get adjusted very quickly and you'll try and piece it together and it works out. Gluten. Gluten is what we want to talk about next. Now, Andrew has had a gluten intolerance almost his whole life. Yeah. And I more recently had a gluten intolerance. I have a feeling it was after I got COVID. Big issue. Now, we heard a lot about how when it comes to Europe. Specifically, I actually heard a lot about Italy. It's about how Italy doesn't overprocess their wheat, so the gluten isn't the same situation, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, and I was like, oh, I wonder if it's like that in Spain, because they're known for having good quality groceries, produce, all those things. So when we came here, that's one of the first things that we wanted to do is try it out. And we couldn't believe that no, there's no gluten issues at all. We don't have a gluten issue, or we don't have a whatever we had in Australia. We don't have that issue here. So we have been able to eat pastries like nobody's business, and we miss them so much. We used to have so many pastries before our gluten intolerances. And I feel like that's really, really changed the game. So being able to go out to a restaurant and just be like, oh yeah, I'll just like order whatever. I'll have tapas without worrying about, is it going to have gluten? It's just changed our lives.
So things work differently here. Operational hours are from say 8:30, 9 till 2 o'clock, and then everything else closes from 2 till 5. So in between that period of time, everybody goes and has a siesta or whatever happens. Sometimes there is roadworks. And that is the biggest culture shock going back to how the work-life balance works here. You can tell there is a balance. Obviously, I don't know financially how the balance is, but however, there's a balance because then certain things will reopen between 5 and 5:30, but restaurants won't open up until 8 o'clock.
It's like you're expected to you go to work, but like during lunchtime, you don't have to be at work. Like
Correct,
you go home, have lunch, have a little nap, come back,
rest up and get back to work.
You're rested, and it's just so calm. It's very different for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah. So going off what Andrew just mentioned, another thing is like public holidays, general holidays, as well as Sundays. So Sundays, like nothing is open. Unless it's a petrol station, then it's not going to be open. And again, like I said at the start of the video, this might not apply everywhere. Probably somewhere like Madrid or Barcelona will be open just because they're huge cities, but just in general life and general towns, yes, Sunday is like a no-no. Everyone just like spends time with family, and you'll hear like music in the streets, and you'll hear like kids laughing, and it's just so cool. Very different, but really cool. Then we've got public holidays. Usually what will happen on a public holiday is like the weekend that it's closest to. So say, for example, the public holiday is on the Thursday, then it's likely that you wouldn't expect anyone to get any work done on the Friday, the Saturday, and the Sunday. So that is not so much of a culture shock in the sense of in Australia, a lot of us do that personally in our private lives, and we'll call in sick the next day. But here it's just more, I feel like, socially acceptable to like, no, I'm not going to do work on this weekend. Definitely something to adjust to. So something that we figured out very quickly is parking. Yes, there might be a line that says this is where you park, but if you find a car park that's like kind of on the side of the road, I'm sure it's not encouraged by the local police, but it's something that people do very often, and it's okay to stop in the middle of the road and talk to your friends, and people behind you just have to wait. Like it's just like normal. People are willing to wait. No one's like gonna beep 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 you because you have just taken a moment out of their time. So it's very interesting. But yeah, parking creative ways, that's something that you kind of definitely have to get used to, especially if it's a smaller town. Like if it's like a town like this, or like main cities probably don't do it.
For someone that's always driving and was a driver, to see that, you feel it matters, because you feel like life is slowing down a little bit. So
definitely.
in saying that, one thing that we realized, which is moving on to the next topics, is fast speech. So where we're located, the dialect is a little bit different. And what we have found is that here, and correct me if I'm wrong, they don't pronounce their the full words, like sort of like shortened in a way. Therefore, it makes a lot quicker. Now,
it's short form sentences. It
is,
blah, 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 and it's like sounds like one word.
It does, yeah. It sounds like one word. Where like it's people say hasta luego, but it sounds like they forget the A part It's like, I don't luego. And then and it's like, we're already at luego.
Yeah, we already
We're at luego. Okay, so we're there. Okay, yeah, cool. That's the only part where they're fast-paced maybe in their life is when they're talking.
Absolutely.
The culture shock isn't the language because we're in Spain, so we can't be shocked by that.
No.
Right? Where it's just more that, what I thought I was learning, there's now something else
Just
to learn.
throw it in the bin and start again at this
we have to
point.
start all over again. So, yeah. The other thing is it's sunny all day. Yesterday, obviously it's relative to when you're watching this video. However, there's a day. There's a day. It was supposed to rain all day, right? It was supposed to rain all day. So I've come out early and fixed up a certain area, right? And then I was like, all right, better stop because I can see it coming. So I'm like, all right, time to put the tools down, go inside and do what I have to do inside. The rain never came. So it was still sunny, and then half of the area was raining. So half of it was sunny, half of it was raining.
But just in general, like, it's winter right now.
Yes.
And it's sunny every day. Like, I mean,
is, yeah.
it's sunny every single day. You will see the sun. It's not overcast. It's not. And if you're standing in the sun, like, you're warm.
I mean, the sun helps everything. So I
Yeah.
think that changes your mood.
I've had a fair few, like, you know, people say, oh, you know, but it gets really cold here. And yes.
Yeah,
I'm
but it's
sure
not arty cold.
In accordance to what they think is cold, yes, it gets cold, but it's nothing like specifically Melbourne. I think when people hear that we're from Australia, they assume it's like nice and sunny. But unless you're in far north Queensland or
it's not
Perth,
gonna matter.
then you get cold. You get really cold. It's very different.
Yes.
So this is something that you might want to skip if you aren't a smoker. You probably don't care. Or you might see this as a bad thing if you're not a smoker. But we are smokers, avid smokers, and it is just so different here. So you can smoke anywhere, and not only can you smoke anywhere, like, you know, even if we can smoke anywhere, we're usually paying attention to, is there a kid around? Is there a pregnant woman around? Is there, you know, an elderly person around? Like, things that we're just kind of like, it's rude to like light up next to someone that's whatever. But here, like, parents will smoke while their child is in their lap. Like, it's just normal. And because we in Australia had the law come in so many years ago now where, you know, you can't smoke inside, you can't smoke at restaurants, you can't smoke within 5 meters of an entrance to a building. All these different rules were put in place. And so it is so weird to wind back the clock and go back to how it was previously. Personally, we don't smoke indoors just because we prefer that, you know, like, our house doesn't have that smoke smell, and also it's a nice thing to like come out and have a coffee and have your smoke and just chill out outside. But like, our neighbors smoke in their houses, like, it's totally completely normal. And it's just like really winding back that clock and just going, oh my God, like, that's how
I think things
Australia
are different. It's a perspective thing, so I can already understand that a lot of people, like, look, at the end of the day, that's a culture shock, and it'll be a culture shock to anybody. I'm a European, right? That's where my bloodline is. I'm Greek.
An Arab.
You're an Arab, right? So at
We're
the end,
smokers.
we're smokers,
like,
right? It's normal. We understand there could be a potential risk or whatever. That's not the point. The point of the matter is that there is a part of our culture that was taken away from us in Australia.
Yes.
I understand the health perspective.
Absolutely.
Cool, whatever. However, this is a cultural thing that's been happening for hundreds of years, right? So the fact that we can come to a place where, we can sit outside, like when we went to Granada, we were eating our food and we were able to smoke at the same time. That is a big deal to us. That is something that is ingrained, that is part of us, that we identify with.
Yeah.
It might be small, it might be nothing, you might not agree with it, you might not subscribe. I get that, I fully understand it, and I'm aware of that. However, this is something that is a big deal to us. We like to smoke and play cards with our friends.
Yeah.
You know,
spend like long hours, especially in
talking
summer, like summer nights, and you're just sitting out there having a cigarette, having a drink. You know, it's just a feeling that we like. It is super European, it is super ethnic, it is super Arab, it is super all these things. And we definitely don't expect the English-speaking world to accept or completely understand that. But yeah, it's just a thing. And anyway, I think we've talked enough about smoking. We're clearly very
I just want to identify,
about it.
I just want to clarify something just for the people that that are watching us that are Spanish or Europeans. In Australia, there was a law that passed that you cannot smoke at restaurants. Outside. There are no smoking areas
We can't
anymore.
smoke anywhere where food
is
served.
served.
You can't smoke, within 5 meters.
There are allocated areas, however, it's nowhere near the food.
Exactly. Like you've got to walk off and smoke
Yeah.
somewhere in like a dingy corner,
Yeah.
and you're looked at as if you're a bad person if you smoke, and
it
it's
is.
just like this thing
There
that
is a
like,
culture
we
there,
always
but-
never understood. But
Moving on.
moving on. I swear we're without smoking.
Everything
ever.
else, I think the video's only gone for 5 minutes. That way for 12.
Okay, so moving on. Rubbish pickup. So, in Australia, each house gets a green wheelie bin, and I'm sure it's like that around the world, but we get a green wheelie bin, you roll it to the back of your house, you fill it up, and then every week, once a week, you take it out and they empty it. Here, I'd say 40 meters, maybe 50 meters, there is a town bin. So that bin is like those industrial ones that they have at the back of restaurants, if you've ever seen what I'm talking about. And they'll have like 2 or 3 or even 4. So they'll have them in a certain spot, and then they get picked up daily. We all put our rubbish in those bins, and then they will come and take it every single day. So you always have bin space, and you always know that if you have something to throw away and it doesn't fit, you could just wait for the next day.
That's one thing that I've noticed is there's less rubbish on the ground.
And in general, I feel like the neighbors take a lot of like pride in the street. Like people
Everybody's
will
cleaning.
come and like sweep in the front of your house, and they have nothing to do with your house, and they're just cleaning on your behalf, and you know, little things like that, which is really nice.
So
Another culture shock, and this kind of comes into like when you're looking for a house and things like that. It might be a strange one. So one is that the beds are shorter and the ceilings are shorter. In general, in Australia, our beds are taller, like longer. So when you're laying, like your feet don't hang off unless you're like deeper down into the bed. And as far as I have seen online when I've done my research, apparently it's just because in general, people in Spain are shorter. And not that I've noticed that, like I didn't think that, but I guess maybe, or maybe it used to be the case and they haven't updated like their standards, which is a really strange thing. And then the ceilings, luckily, our ceilings are a great height. They're no problem. But there are a few places that you go to and you're like, oh, the ceilings are like abnormally low. And I guess in Australia as well, we really like high ceilings. So it's much more likely that you go into a house and they've got ceilings way above your head where they technically don't even need to be. But yes, ceilings can be low. Another thing is remote garages. Now, we have seen a few in town, we have seen a few around, but they're not super common. There are a lot of garages that it's more common to see a hand pull garage where you'd like physically have to exit the car and open the doors. So that's something that's like just a little random strange thing that we noticed that's, it's just not so common. So yeah. Alrighty. This is something that really matters to me. I think a lot more than I thought it would. But I didn't realize in Australia just how insecure I could be. And in Australia, there is a lot of effort that gets put into the way you look and your appearance. So even if you're a natural beauty, you'll likely be covering half your face with like layers and layers of makeup, and it's just like a common occurrence, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. People do beautiful makeup and we love it, and yes, and I used to be one of those people. I used to love doing my makeup, but over here natural beauty is a lot more I guess appreciated, and it feels a lot more like normal to just like wear your face and be proud of your face. everyone's all still very well put together and everyone's, you know, confident and dressed nicely and all the rest of it, but the face is just such a huge difference. And you know, you might have a bit of mascara on, but that's probably it. And you do find some people with a lot of makeup, but it's a very rarity. So that's something, I guess, that was a huge culture shock, the way we're kind of programmed to be in our English speaking countries, is that like you've got to like look a certain way or like put in so much effort, almost too much effort, and then it makes everyone feel super self-conscious. So we put in extra layers of everything. But yeah, I feel
there's a lot of natural
so much
beauty
more.
here.
Yeah, I feel a lot more me and happy to be me and not hide behind layers and layers of, yeah. All right, for this part, I'm going to say if you're a man, you probably don't want to listen to this specific section, so you can skip right ahead. But this is about tampons. So in Australia, our tampons get sold in like the tampon with the string and that's it. And I've only ever seen tampons with applicators in American movies, but they have them here too. It's like that's the common thing. You can't really find tampons without the applicator. And I thought it's definitely worth a mention because, I mean, you know, understanding your body is important. I was terrified of trying the applicator at the start because I was like, oh, I don't know. Like, that's not something I've ever had to do or know how to do. But I tried it and it's amazing and it's actually so much better, and it feels like it sits in the right place, whereas like when you're not using an applicator, it doesn't feel like it's sitting sometimes in the right place. Like you don't always 100% nail it every single time. So yeah, sorry. But yes, that's something that I thought is definitely worth a mention. All right, the next thing is eggs. Eggs are not refrigerated here at all. Yeah. So we found out through like a TikTok video as to why that is. And apparently the eggs here aren't washed before they're put on the shelves. So like they're not washed, and that leaves like some sort of, I don't know, maybe film or chemical that protects them. But long story short, you don't need to put your eggs in the fridge because they're fine to be out, and then you just consume them like that. And in Australia, that's weird. You even have trays in your fridge
dedicated
for
to eggs.
your eggs. And when we bought our fridge here, there wasn't one. And I'm like, huh. And I'm literally just so used to seeing an egg tray in the fridge, and that's where we put them. So yeah, that was a little interesting one. And that brings me on to talking about closed meats. So this is something that honestly blew my mind, and it sounds so stupid when I say it out loud, but in Australia, when we have like a package seal on, let's say some bacon or ham or something, right? And you open it, it is very unlikely that that top open tab is going to stay intact. They will never open correctly. It'll cut and you'll have half of it off, and then an extra half you have to peel off with your hand. It's weird. Anyway, but here, all the packaging is like A class. It's first class packaging, and if you open it, it'll just completely open. Like plastic is made to be opened the correct way, and it'll just flip on open perfectly. And then when it's meant to be resealed, you can literally reseal it, and it reseals, and it's protected. And the other thing is when you buy burgers, for example, like we bought burger meat, and they're divided into two sections. So you can actually rip through the center and just like open one half, use that. So the rest is still like suctioned, which is wild. I'm just like, oh my God, this makes my life so much easier. You didn't know you need something and you have the something, and it's just crazy. Anyway, and then finally, the last thing about packaged meats is chorizo.
Well, not just chorizo. So what I've seen is when we go shopping for meat, sausages or whatever, majority of the time, you guys know this, that the sausages are linked.
In Australia,
they're all linked. Yeah.
Like you have to cut them every time you want to cook.
Right. We first got we're like, all right, we'll try these chorizos. We bought like 3 packets. They're not linked. You just take them out individually, and they've got their own little contained little individual packets or whatever it is.
Perfect little sausages.
They've got sausages that are roaming free.
Literally.
Right? And they're just there. That's it.
And I know it doesn't
you don't
make
have
it
to.
sound like a big deal, but it
It's
makes
not,
a
but it
difference
does,
because when you have to cut it, if like you cut it not perfectly on the center, then you get some sausage meat coming out of the edge of the sheathing that it's in.
Yeah.
And it's just like, why does this have to be an extra thing? Anyway, we sound so spoiled, but we really like this. We are big fans of how
does.
they package their
So-
meat, and they're very proud of their meat.
No, they're
And
very
you can
proud of their
tell
meat here.
they're proud of their meat.
100%. 100%. They're not. You can just. The culture is that their food is part of their culture, which is part of their identity, which makes them who they are. And I think that is what we were missing for a long
while.
time.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's part of us now. There's
Yeah.
little things that you're like, okay, yeah, I get that.
You very easily make the switch into that mentality because you're like, well, this makes sense.
I know this is completely off topic, but they're shopping centres. They've got street names for their shopping centres.
Yes, that's a great
I'm like,
point. When
what?
you're walking through the shopping centre, we had to ask
Nothing to do with
a
meat,
girl,
but
we had to ask a girl who, where Zara was, and she was like, "Oh, you take this road, and then you." I'm like,
Yeah, we're like, what do you mean?
I'm like, sorry, huh? And then, but we were just like, yeah, we pretended like we didn't want, like we thought she was saying the wrong thing or she was stupid. But we're stupid. We are stupid. We were, as we were walking around, we realized, oh my God, the actual
the signs.
rows and the columns and all those things in the shopping center actually have street names. Which makes so much sense.
And not only that, there's like shops inside where you can sit down and have tapas.
There's like a cocktail lounge. There's like all the.
The culture shock to us is that there's culture.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
No, I think that's where.
That sums that up for sure.
And even.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
we both did it.
So when you buy a water bottle, any bottle, literally juice bottle,
That's
anything,
it.
right?
It just.
You undo it, and then this stays on. You don't have to like be like, oh, where do I put
Where
that
to put
cap?
my lid?
It's just like it stays attached. And for like water bottles, you just click it, it becomes like that. And then for other bottles, like this,
That's a straight
it just
top,
just stays on the top there, which is pretty cool.
Look at it. You just. That's it. And it just stays there. Does it get annoyed? Yes, but however, this is magic. This is magic.
Your lid.
Magical. And it makes sense.
The last thing we wanted to talk about goes back to kind of what we were talking about, the siesta time and all the nap that you can have and the chill out you can have during the day. Windows here are blackout. Just expect them to be really black out. So our shutters, for example, when you close them, it's dead dark. Like you don't have to get extra curtains to make it dead dark. It just is built to be like that. So you can have your nap during the day. That was really cool to figure out because I'm like, well, you don't know if it's daylight outside or anything.
And I think that's part of it. I think you don't lose track of time in a way, but you do. And you feel like I respect time more and I enjoy my time more. There's something that I'm responsible for it and I appreciate it. And when I wake up and it's still dark, really it's nice and sunny outside, but I don't know, I think it gives you a different perspective. I'm not sure what that is yet, but there is an essence or nuance to respecting time here a lot differently too. And
you respect to make your own time. Like, you're responsible for your time and you do with it what you want.
Anyway,
that brings us to the end of this video and we really hope you liked it because we've just been like collecting notes and we keep looking down here because there's like notes on Andrew's phone that we keep referring back to, and it's just been like a collection of things that we've noticed along the way that we thought you would probably benefit from knowing, or some of them
I think it's little things favorites. Like these are our culture shocks and the things that more or less it's more of an identity shift because you think differently and look at it differently. So what I would say is that when you do go to Spain or any European country, you really do have to black out what you know about the world, call it what it is.
And Spain itself is such a big country.
It's a big country, it's
depending
diverse.
On what region, like in
everything's
Spain,
different.
You'll find that people are more they refer more to like their community rather than like the whole country as a whole.
Yeah.
Because there's so many different parts, so many different regions, so many different people, so many different languages. So, you know, that's
Dialects,
something that,
language, history, everything. Like
Yeah.
everything is.
yeah.
That's
so
where
we're
it's
just
at.
talking about our little hub. We're in
what we've
Granada,
experienced.
technically
Yeah.
in the Andalusia region.
Region,
So
yeah.
you know, this might be completely different to say somewhere like Asturias or
Yeah.
you know, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Basque Country. So, yeah. Thanks for tuning
Yes.
into Under El Spanish Sun. We hope to catch you on the next episode.
bye.